Hi everyone, I am Rebecca from ChemKnits and I love to dye yarn. Sometimes I pick colors just because I feel like it, and other times I like to pick an inspiration image to pull a color palette, and sometimes I let that image also inspire the technique and things I'm gonna do for dyeing the yarn. Well, that's what we're gonna do today. But what makes this project extra special is that our inspiration photo is actually from a dye-along I did back in 2020, 2021. It's this sparkler image that has some bokeh in the background. We've got teals, blacks with bright pops of sort of an aqua, orange, and purple. And yeah, I'm gonna play with this to create a fun colorway today. Now, the one thing I am not doing is I have not gone back to look at my dye-along live stream or recap to see what yarn bases I used, how I dyed the yarn, because I'm curious to see if what I create today, how similar or different it is from what I created back then. So maybe we'll react to some of that in the conclusions. But my plan today for this colorway is to do some resist dyeing. I want to add some zip tie resists onto yarn, dye the base a saturated black and teal color, and then remove those resists and paint in neon pink purple. So I'll use Purple Pop, it breaks. It is the closest neon purple we have, and probably Dharma's safety orange, fluorescent safety orange, which will give us some bright fluorescent orange pops as well. I don't think I'm gonna bring in a bright blue or aqua color because I think that like when the teal I'm gonna use, if that's less saturated, that'll bring in some of those notes. But we can always modify things when we see how our colorway is going. Let's go talk about our yarn. For a sparkler image, I need to pick a sparkly yarn, which probably isn't gonna sparkle much in the like diffused light in my dining room, but this is Stroll Glimmer. The yarn is 70% superwash fine merino wool, 25% nylon, 5% silver stellina. Bringing it to where I can have a little more sparkle. If you'd like to learn more about this yarn base, I will have affiliate links to this and some of the other tools and equipment I'm using in my video down in the video description. I will make a commission if you make a purchase through an affiliate link. The resist pattern I plan to do today is pretty simple. I'm going to take our yarn, open it up, add a zip tie that is not going to be a resist, but just will be an extra tie on the yarn. And then I'm going to take two other zip ties near the end, do one, and two. I considered briefly doubling them up to make larger sections of resist, but we're gonna go really small, and I'm gonna go ahead and do this on the other two skeins, sparkle skeins. Now, to help the resist, or really this is tied tight to prevent dye from accessing those areas, so that way we'll end up with white patches behind. And if I add this into a dye bath while it is dry, even with the resist, we might suck some dye into these areas. So I need to go ahead and pre-soak the yarn. It's just sometimes easier to add the zip ties on while the yarn is still dry. So I'm adding our yarn into the steam pan where we will eventually be dyeing it. And I did actually debate trying to dye 6 skeins. It really would depend on how many resists and things I put on the yarn, and since I'm going for fewer resists because I want the bulk of the color to be really dark, I don't want the pan to be too crowded because I want to get good coverage of our color on our yarn. So right here I added just 16 cups of water. There's no acid in here yet, and I want to let things soak for around 30 minutes. So that way the yarn can be nice and saturated. And then we'll add our background colors on, I think while things are still cold with no acid, just so that way I can distribute the colors through with a little bit of control. Now I'm also going to want to take another look at the picture to help me think about the placement of our teal and black, but I am quite excited to see where this is going to go. But I'm kind of inclined to have like the teal mostly down on one side and then black around here with maybe some random overlay. That's just my gut. And we may add water in a little while anyway, but for now we're gonna soak. The 4 colors I'm planning to use to dye this colorway are Dharma Acid dyes in True Black and Teal Green for the background color. And then for the pops, we'll use Purple Pop and Fluorescent Safety Orange. I do have Bright Aqua sort of on standby, but I'm not planning on using it unless our background color ends up feeling too black. Then I might bring the aqua in, or honestly, I may change my mind altogether. That is a possibility too. So I had it so that way it's here in case I want it. I put on my deluxe rubber respirator mask, safety glasses, and gloves, and measured out 1.5 grams of teal green and 3 grams of true black, dissolving each of the colors separately with hot tap water. This is going to give us a total of 4.5 grams of dye, which combined would give a 1.5% depth of shade on our yarn. Because I want there to be some intensity in these colors, that's why I'm using this amount of dye. I wasn't worrying about the total volume I was dissolving the dyes in because we're going to use all of it on the yarn. But once things were dissolved, I set it aside to wait for our yarn to finish pre-soaking. All right, now I'm still obviously wearing safety glasses, but I think it's time to start adding some of these colors in, even though they're very concentrated. I'm going to start with the teal. Poured around half of it. See how when it moves, we get some of those like aquas? That's why I was like, we may not need to bring in some aqua because we could end up with some incidentally. Okay, but I'm trying to lift and move the yarn to work the color through a bit at least. I don't have a yarn mop, which maybe is going to be a mistake because I had the dye on my hands, but you know what? It is what it is. Okay, let's take some of the black. Okay, I don't know if you could tell, but I poured at the end, but also some in the middle to blend and mix with some of those teals. Cool. I'm going to add more teal down here because I don't want the black to take over too much, and I'm checking because ideally I'll have very little white down there. I feel like it's now time for me to start adding acid because I'm going to want the colors to blend, yes, but I also want them to strike. Okay, so I added however much that was. And now I'm going to squish the yarn down. Add a lot of black down there. Lift the yarn and we're going to work it through. Because you can almost see a difference between some of those more blue colors, and I need to be careful with massaging over the resist points because I don't want to force the dye in there too much, but I want to work it through those other areas. We'll add more acid in a moment. And then this teal come in and add that in there to give us something like very moody and dark and hopefully not too messy. Why is there soap on this paper towel? That's not what I wanted. Soap is good and all, but that's not what I want wanted to introduce. So I have a little bit, I've just added some water. We've got a little bit of black dye left and a little bit of some teal. Not very much, but I have another black on hand if we find a spot where I think we need to add a little more color. And so let's go bring this over to the stove now. I'm gonna need to lower the camera so you don't get the microwave in the way. But I need to start heating this. And I wanna add some more acid, particularly down here, 2, 3. Okay, we have a reasonable amount of acid in here now for 16 to 18 cups of water, probably. I'm gonna go ahead and heat this for, let's do 15 minutes, and then we'll check back in again. It's been 15 minutes. We are very steamy. And I want to check to see how things are looking. Ooh, I love that we have so much teal here, and I do feel teal on those other 2 areas as well. All of the color, ooh, we are so steamy I can barely see. All the colors in the yarn, but aha, I see a light patch there. I think that's really the only one that I have found. And we don't have a ton of teal left, but I can bring that in. And we do have some more black, which actually, as I start pouring it, I should get a spoon. I need a metal spoon to help work it through and blend it in. I need to remember that I did add water to this, so this is nowhere near as concentrated as it was before because I was getting a little nervous. But just adding the rest of that in. All right, and now I'm gonna heat things, I guess. Ooh, I was having a brief internal debate because after 15 minutes, all the dye had cleared. And so I think we can just do 15 minutes again. I think that there's no reason to do much longer than that because we will be steam setting this yarn after we add the pops of color in those resist parts. So, see you in 15 minutes. Ooh, we're looking good. I love the like shadow of teal. I'm gonna turn off the heat and I'm gonna give it a minute before I remove the yarn. Not because, actually that's not that bad. I was afraid, things were so steamy before that I was afraid things were gonna be really hot. But it's actually not bad. I was a little nervous that I would try to remove it because sometimes it's hard to lift and remove some liquid when you have those zip ties. But, and I don't know if you can see the sparkle, but I see that shimmering sparkle. Oh, glorious. Now I am gonna wanna let these cool a bit. They don't need to cool completely. Ooh, but you can see a resist spot. But we need it to cool enough so that way I can remove the zip ties without burning myself. It's just always a good idea to be patient. And we know I'm not the most patient person. But anyway, I love the pops of teal in here. But I am going to wait until things are warm. And then we can do our next layer. Okay, it's time for a good reveal moment. Opening this up and oh, I love it. I love it. Oh, that's so good. Okay, and then the second. Oh, wow. Awesome. Awesome, awesome. Now, technically, we have 4 resist points. 4 little sections here where we're going to be able to add some color. And I'm going to have to decide how I want to do that. And the order that I want to do it. I think I'm inclined to do purple, purple, orange, orange. Kind of like that. And I think I also want to use the dry dye powder directly to like work that color in the little sections. I know that that's a little silly, especially since I don't have a yarn mop on hand, but I think that that's what I want to do today. But let's quickly remove the resist from the other two skeins so then we can look at all the yarn. So it seems like this skein here probably has the most green. This one may have the least, but all of them have sort of that teal and black haze. And I love the way the colors blended and it's not just like a sharp transition. But now I'm gonna go put on my deluxe rubber respirator mask, safety glasses, and gloves so we can start applying dye to our resists. Okay, let's do this. Now with both of these fluorescent colors, a little goes a really long way. So I'm gonna take the purple pop, sprinkle it onto the yarn. Put the lid back on, and then using these fingertips, I'm going to work it through, kind of working it up and down, and I will eventually flip to apply this color to the other side as well, but you can see some of it is going through, so we'll flip after we've applied the other color. Now, I do want to make sure my fingers are dry. There's not that much leftover color on here though, before I go into the next dye jar. Okay, fluorescent safety orange is a fun color and it breaks in a very like flame-like way that feels like it'll be appropriate. And since I have two fingers covered with dye, I'm using one on one of the parts and the other on the other. I'm going to flip things at this stage, and we can continue using this dye on my fingertips to work this color through. And I can add a little bit more on the side until I'm happy with the coverage. And I carried on and did a similar thing on the other two skeins. Okay, and now I want to add just a few drops of vinegar onto each of these sections in case we didn't get acid in there from the original dyeing. And I need to take this all over to the steamer basket to steam set it for 30 minutes. And I'm just going to kind of stack all the yarn together and put it in the steamer basket where I'll show you once we're done. But of course I now need to clean up this counter. Hopefully this won't be so bad. These colors blended together is really pretty, actually. Now, obviously, it's going to need more cleaning than that, but this is why I like using a shower curtain to protect my work surface. It's been a lot more than 30 minutes. I will fully admit I had a phone call or two that I had to take, so it's been a while. But you know, it's not going to hurt the yarn. And I've boiled Stellina in, oh, that's hot, in vinegar, and it didn't dull it, so that's not a concern that I have. Whew, look at the pretty. You know, the purple and the orange are probably, oh my God, there's some bleeding. That is what it is. They're probably a little more saturated than what I was going for, but they're going to be fluorescent, which is going to be awesome. Now I need to set things aside to cool so we can go wash it. Oh, look how sparkly the yarn is. Oh, and we might see, actually, so some of these fluorescent colors are ones that are more likely to bleed when things are hot. and when things are cold. And I was steeling myself for some bleeding. That was just some cool water. But now I'm going to add some dish soap, and we're going to hold our breath. Not all of a sudden thing, which is fine. I did add soap, and hallelujah. Maybe there's the tiniest hint of something, but I wouldn't call it bleeding. You know, this is reminding me a little bit of like a bird of paradise flower, maybe? Something about the like pops of color. But anyway, I am gonna put this yarn through my spin dryer and hang it up to dry, but look at that sparkle. Oh my gosh, waiting till night in my kitchen to film this gives the best light for having the sparkles show off on camera. Let's look at the yarn dry. There is so much more teal in this yarn than I thought there was going to be. Looking at it while it was still wet, it really felt like it was going to be mostly black with a pop of teal. And looking at it now, I think I could have used more black dye just to make it a little bit darker over there. But I still think it fits the color inspiration really, really well. The orange and purple are mega, mega, mega vibrant. And, I mean, we have to do this now. Bring over the black light to see them pop. Now, if I went into a closet or something to remove the rest of the ambient light, those pops, those fluorescent pops would pop even more. It's so fun to see. And picking a fluorescent color to use for this colorway was part of the plan because we've got glowy color at night, and well, that's why I went that direction. Before I chat about how this colorway compares with what I did 4 years ago, I'm going to give a huge shout out and thank you to the ChemKnits patrons, including Karen Siegel, Jessica Parco, Bernadette Crum, Dawn Jans, Tamara Spanes, and the rest of the names you see on the screen right now. Patreon is a really great way you can help support the content here on the ChemKnits Tutorials YouTube channel directly, and there's fun perks. You can learn all about it over at patreon.com/ChemKnits. And to all the patrons, thank you so much for your support. So what did I do 4 years ago? I didn't watch my recap in its entirety, but I played around with similar colors. I definitely used the Fluorescent Safety Orange and Purple Pop, and applied the powders to the end of the yarn in a couple different ways. And then dip dyed this into, it's unclear to me if I did teal first and then black or what, but I think some combination of teal green and true black to create a version of a colorway I had created for that Hanukkah that I had called an oops, because I was trying to evoke candlelight. And so that colorway is different from what I have here, but still related. And so it's just really fun to see how I decided to look at the same picture and do something different, given the techniques and things that I love to do today. Are there any other color palettes or inspiration photos that you would like me to revisit from past dye-alongs or past videos that I've done? It's fun to revisit things that I've done in the past and look at it through a new lens, or revisiting it with just the image and then seeing if I do the same thing or if I do something completely different. I think that this colorway is so much fun, and I hope you love it too. I know a lot of you miss the monthly dye-along format with submissions to see what different people created, and part of me misses it too, and part of me wants to think about ways to do this again, but with a different kind of format that requires, I don't know, a little less organization. So let me know if you have any suggestions down in the comments below, and please subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a new video. This is by far the biggest thing you can do to help support the content here. I am Rebecca from ChemKnits, and thank you so much for watching.